Helton, after the ballots were revealed, maybe surprisingly so, Beltre with 95.1% does not surpass George Brett for the most among third basemen.
Or Mike Schmidt.
A bit of a surprise, Helton received a larger percentage of the votes than Mauer. 79.7% of the final ballots
Almost
for
80.
Todd Helton,
good.
And 76.1% for Joe Mauer. The next closest, Billy Wagner, at 73.8%.
Oh,
so close.
So close.
Gary Sheffield, 63.9%.
Yeah, he's
that on his last year on the ballot. So that does it for Sheffield. Andrew Jones, 61.6%. Carlos Beltran, 57.6%. Many years to go if those climbs happen.
Yeah.
Two interesting members of that ballot. Obviously, the steroid era of baseball, of which Beltre and Helton, and to an extent Mauer, functioned within in that span of time as well. But Alex Rodriguez, 34%. Manny Ramirez, 32.5%. Obviously, voters feel very differently about their legacy compared to that part of the steroid era. Helton was not the first overall pick. He was the 8th overall pick in the first round, coming out of Tennessee, in which he had played first base, right field, and closer. Golden Spikes nominee, baseball's equivalent of the Heisman. We're talking about a player that was not a surprise that he was a great player, but maybe a surprise that he so quickly became great in the majors, because he didn't spend a tremendous amount of time in the minors, especially in a time frame in which players really, no matter where you picked, generally did.
Yeah, and I think that's maybe started to change just a little bit. Although I did see today in one of those pieces they put out at around this time every year, project who will break through this year in Major League Baseball. Teams that were bad last year who might take a 10 or more game jump.
Rockies weren't on
standings. Rockies were not on it for some reason. They listed 6 teams. And, one of the arguments for the Boston Red Sox had to do with their minor league team's performance collectively in recent years, which I don't think necessarily translates, but I think now, and it's I think true too of the whole sports, players have better training and they can get to the majors sooner.
In Helton's case, it was quick. I mean, he was drafted, and at 21 was assigned to Asheville in the South Atlanta League at Class A ball. He only played 54 games there at the tail end of 95. The year he was drafted, 96. Then immediately jumped to New Haven, where the Rockies had their Double-A team at that point, played 93 games there, and batted .332 with 31 extra base hits in those 93 games, and had over 100 hits, so averaging more than a hit a game at Double-A. The Rockies promoted him to Colorado Springs, which at the time was their Triple-A team. Right. He only played 21 games there before then jumping to the Colorado Rockies. I mean,
so he never played 100 games at any one stop.
And barely got over 100 after the year he was drafted, where he played half the year in rookie league ball. So,
yeah.
I mean, you're talking about a stratospheric rise. And remember at the time that the Rockies had a heck of a first baseman in Andres Galarraga.
They did,
and
they were able to trade him to Atlanta.
It didn't feel as if there was a big rush.
He would have been a left fielder, probably.
Yeah. And so he ends up making that debut. Helton starts the year in 97 in Colorado Springs. Again, hits .352 down there, and just became undeniable. And the Rockies realized we have to move on from Galarraga because this guy's ready right now. And never stopped hitting.
He did play for Don Baylor, not for long, but
not for long,
for a time.
97 season.
Every Rockies manager. He retired in 13, right?
Todd Helton did, yes, after the 2013 season. Yep.
What was Weiss's first year?
I'd have to think
about
that one.
13, 14? Did
he
play for Weiss?
He might have played for Weiss. I'll have to look that up with the skippers and see how that all shook out.
That's it. There aren't a lot of, Bud Black succeeded.
Yeah.
Weiss. So
Baylor went towards 98, as you discussed.
Well, he played for Baylor. I know that.
As a matter of fact, yes, you hit it. So
the only
Baylor
manager
in 97 and 98, Buddy Bell after that. You have Bud Black, Clint Hurdle, Jim Leland, and Walt Weiss's first year.
Buddy Bell.
Buddy Bell, yes.
Buddy Black is the only manager
that he
never played for in the history of the Rockies.
Because, yes, Walt Weiss's first year was 2013.
All right.
So, yeah, every manager except.
So Weiss had 4 years, 13 through 16.
Correct.
Since 17, it's been
correct.
Bud Black.
And the Rockies, by the way, for managers' all-time winning record remains Jim Tracy with a 488. Don Baylor slightly behind him at 484. Bud Black now, after the disastrous year last year, is now tied with Clint Hurdle at a 461, where only Jim Leland in his 1 year and Walt Weiss have lower winning percentages among managers. But yes, I mean, Helton kind of spans the Rockies' entire history almost on his own. And I always remember, too, especially near the end of his career, if there was one thing that he rarely complained about, but every once in a while you'd hear him sort of grouse. And it kind of cracks me up that it never happened. Todd Helton really did want to pitch in a Major League Baseball game, even in some blowout, save the bullpen. We were down 13-0 because he pitched in college.
Yeah.
And never got a crack at it. That always sort of surprised me because, when you put guys in there, sometimes they'd never pitched or whatever. And you had a guy that was the closer on a top 20 team and they never let him try it, which I think shows you how valuable the Rockies considered him. Otherwise, like we just if you get hurt throwing a pitch, even in some garbage, pointless game, we'll never, ever, ever live it down.
No, that's true.
Todd Helton just about 5 months ago, a little longer than that, last August, turned 50. So this is a very nice, if somewhat belated birthday gift for Helton. And then we talked about it a bit yesterday. Remember, Peyton Manning likely doesn't join the Denver Broncos in part unless Todd Helton is one of the guys that sells him on living in Colorado. So, I mean, we're talking about a significant figure here in Colorado sports history. We wanted to get your texts as well, 303-831-1340 on the reaction to Todd Helton being elected into the National Baseball Hall of Fame. Danny, what have you got?
This one more about another former Rocky than Helton himself, but from Man of the People. Will Arenado's playoff numbers keep him out of Hall of Fame?
No.
No.
Nolan Arenado he could retire tomorrow. And
a lot of Hall of Famers were not great in the postseason.
And remember, you have to, a lot of the cases, too, not only were they not great, I mean, they also, a lot of them didn't ever get to play because of the nature of the playoffs was so limited until someone
Ernie Banks,
as well.
famously.
Right. Never got a postseason appearance. So, no, Arenado's numbers, when you consider offense and the fact that, look, I think the best probably 3 defensive third basemen in history are probably, put them in whatever you want. I will put them in whatever I want. Brooks Robinson, Nolan Arenado, and Mike Schmidt. And I put Arenado ahead of Mike Schmidt because Mike Schmidt said Nolan Arenado's ahead of Mike Schmidt, and that's good enough for me.
Well, I saw Mike Schmidt a lot in person. I saw Brooks Robinson occasionally in person, and obviously Nolan Arenado a lot more than the other two in person from his years here. And I don't think Nolan Arenado had to take a back seat to anyone as a defensive third baseman in the history of baseball.
The arm
that's
strength
basically
is
what
ridiculous. The instincts are amazing. The ability to release from all these different arm angles. Yeah, I don't know. When you're talking about is it Robinson or Arenado who's the best ever? That's a pretty cool discussion.
Yeah, that is. And he's a better hitter than Brooks. I don't think he's as good a hitter as Schmidt.
No.
Defensively, I think he's on a par. As a defensive third baseman, Greg Nettles is fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, he wasn't nearly the hitter that those other
You're right, though.
3 guys were, especially Schmidt
Arenado has
and
10 gold gloves. A lot of guys that have 10-year careers. He's got 10 gold gloves.
Right.
I mean, there's
defensively, there's no
not
doubt.
much to say about that. I mean, it's a little bit ridiculous. No, Arenado will make it in. But after that, for the Rockies, it will be a long, long time. And obviously, there's still a little, I think, bad blood between Rockies fans and Arenado. And Troy Tulowitzki did not make the longevity was not there for Tulowitzki. The peak was probably there, but the longevity most certainly not.
Yeah. I mean, he had 3 great years here, would you say? I mean, great year, Hall of Fame caliber years.
Probably
3.
That's about right. Yeah.
3. 08 wasn't one of them. I'm thinking of 09, 10, I mean, '07 was pretty good his rookie year.
Yeah.
That wasn't bad. Rookie year, go to the World Series. You're a key player in a World Series.
I mean, he was he was the fifth in MVP voting in '09 when he had that terrific,
right.
terrific
No
year,
doubt. That was his
home runs.
best year.
Yeah. But I mean, this, pretty solid peak, but yeah, the longevity wasn't quite there, which is crazy in baseball, right? Because
I don't think
Troy
3
Tulowitzki
years doesn't get you in the Hall of Fame.
It feels like, to an extent, Tulowitzki's career was too short, but he played for 13 years in the majors.
But
when you
more
look,
than half of those years were shortened by injury, affected by age after a while. But again, as a defensive shortstop, you'd be hard pressed to find too many who were more spectacular than Tulowitzki as a defensive shortstop.
Right, absolutely. And but not a Hall of Famer. It's going to be a while. And for the Rockies, as I said after that, you're talking about the wins above replacement, which is not exactly like a catch-all, end-all, be-all metric, but I think it's a relatively good one. And Tulowitzki is going to make it. Trevor Story, who's the next for the Rockies, is not going to make it. Carlos Gonzalez did not have the longevity. He won't make it. And then it goes to Charlie Blackmon. Blackmon is not going to make it. And then Matt Holliday after that as eighth best, and Holliday just rolled off the ballot.
Yeah.
And then you have your first pitcher, Ubaldo Jimenez, but certainly not a Hall of Famer. In other words, the Rockies' next Hall of Famer, past Arenado,
who knows,
may not play for the Rockies yet.
I don't think there's much doubt about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to imagine that. Nolan Jones had a very nice year, but
and Chris Bryant, was great early on. Played on a World Series champion in '16, and then kind of petered out. So he does not have the longevity and probably not quite the brilliance. I mean, these folks here always talked about trading Arenado straight across for Bryant, right?
Right.
No. I mean, Chris Bryant played more positions, I guess.
Yeah.
Other than that.
But it also, with
there
all
isn't
due
that
respect
much
to Chris Bryant, he played multiple
comparison.
positions in part because you wanted his bat in the lineup, and we're trying to, if not hide his glove, trying to at least find a spot where it was.
He wasn't even close to Arenado.
So it'll be a while. So enjoy this, Rockies fans. Todd Helton elected, the first career-long Rocky elected to the Hall of Fame, only the second Rocky ever elected to the Hall of Fame.